Dear students, welcome back. Okay, as you all know, we are continuing biology. Chapter number 7 continues, as you all know, and in chapter number 7, you have already attended 2 lectures, if you can remember. In the first lecture, I gave you an idea regarding control and coordination in plants, as you all know. Then, in the next lecture, we studied about control and coordination in animals. I gave you an idea regarding nerve cell, how nerves work in our body, how nerve cells are useful for transfer of impulses from sense organ to brain and motor nerves back to the organ with the help of spinal cord. This many topics has been explained to you in our lecture number 1 and lecture number 2. Today, my dear student, same chapter continues, okay? That is, we are continuing the same chapter, that is chapter number 7, control and coordination. In this, today, you are attending lecture number 3 today. What we are going to discuss today in our lecture number 3. So today, in our lecture number 3, we are actually going to discuss internal, as you all know, that in previous lecture I explained you that brain and spinal cord constitute our CNS, our central nervous system. So we need to understand the internal structure of human brain. At the same time, some briefing also about spinal cord also. So we are in today's lecture, we are going to discuss about human brain, its internal structure in detail. Now try to understand one thing before we understand human brain in detail. As you all know, that our human brain, the diagram which we are trying to show, the diagram of human brain here is actually a longitudinal section of the brain, how it can be visualized. In fact, if you think another way, so suppose you try to observe human brain, suppose from top, so it looks like this. If you just try to observe human brain from top, it looks like this. This is maybe the top view of the human brain. Understood? But we are not going to study the top view of human brain. This is actually top view of our human brain. Actually, if you try to observe our human brain from the top, then how it looks like. If you try to observe a human brain from top, it looks like that. It is made up of, can you see from the top, if we try to observe our human brain, it looks like that it is made up of two cerebral hemisphere. From the top, if you minutely observe, actually, so from the top itself, if you try to observe it, it looks like that two cerebral hemisphere are separate. It looks like this, that they are separate, but in fact it is not. Actually, both the hemisphere looking here, understand, are in fact this. This can be called cerebral hemisphere. But in fact, from the top, if you observe, it looks like that both the hemisphere are separated. Understand? But actually it is not. Both the hemisphere, which in fact look separated, but they are joined by corpus callosum. They are joined here. Actually, they are joined by, understand, corpus callosum. I just write only callosum, then also it is enough. Okay. This is what we are actually talking of. Top view of the human brain. But if you just open human brain and observe from the side, understand, if you observe it from the side, means if we take the side view of the human brain, then it is totally different. And that is what we are trying to understand. But before we move into that, I want to give you some idea about the human brain. Understand, some basic information which hasn't been mentioned in your textbook, but it can be, I suppose and expect, that they can ask in board exam. So we have to at least be ready. Understand, actually you all know that these two, if we observe from the top, actually we all know that we can divide our brain into three parts. For simplicity of study, that is forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. Forebrain is actually, we will discuss just now, we divide human brain into three parts actually. Understand? These three parts, you can say the first part is forebrain. Actually, forebrain, that is the largest part of human brain. Then if you write the second one, that is midbrain, and the third one, forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. When you try to visualize, for with different name, they are also known as you know, forebrain is known as cerebrum, as you must be knowing, and hindbrain is known as cerebellum, that you all know. Midbrain does not have any such name. Now, my dear student, try to understand actually forebrain is the largest part of human brain. Understand? Right? So we have divided, and actually when you observe, try to observe our brain from the top. This is only forebrain becomes visualized. We are not able to see midbrain and hindbrain. If you want to see midbrain and hindbrain, then you have to see from the side view. That's why we are actually looking by cutting the brain into two parts, and we are visualizing brain from the side view so that other parts of the brain become visual. Understand? Okay. So just now what I am giving idea, I have also written one word, if you can see, cerebral hemisphere. What does it mean? Actually cerebral hemisphere means two hemisphere. It's a part of large brain only, forebrain only. And from the top view, hindbrain as well as midbrain are not visualized. So when I am talking of cerebral hemisphere, I am talking of forebrain only, largest part of your brain. Understand? They are actually joined from the dorsal view, from the top. They looks like they are separate, but they are joined by corpus callosum, one type of tissues you can say. Understand? Now let us try to study what diagram we are showing. That is the side view, means you cut human brain from here and visualize from the side. That is what we are trying to understand and draw here. Okay. So, and my dear student, do you know what is the weight of brain of a normal human being? The weight of brain for normal human being means adult, that is approximately 1350 gram. Understand? Now let us try to draw the structure of human brain and try to understand it. Okay, chalo. First we are seeing the side view. That must be in your mind. Okay, let us try to understand it. First, human brain we are going to draw. Okay. Right, and from here somewhat this way. Okay. From here, okay, take some turn up till this. Chalo. Let us try to understand and draw human brain. First you draw this way. Okay. Now just try to understand, actually our human brain is protected, as you all know, in our cranium box. I can just show cranium box around this, just for understanding. Suppose we just want to make you understand only. Suppose a cranium box, if we draw, our human brain is protected in our skull. Okay. Suppose we draw skull, and our human brain is protected in our skull. Now try to understand, student. Suppose this is skull, the cranium box you can say. Okay, and in that skull, our brain is protected, but you all know our brain is made up of such a soft material, actually gray and white matter which is so soft, jelly like. Skull bone is one of the hardest bone also in our body. So what happens between skull and our brain? There are three layers of meninges, a specific type of layers which actually try to protect our brain. Understand? These three layers are actually trying to protect our brain. We are just showing it here. These three layers of meninges try to protect our brain from any type of mechanical shock or injury. Understand? This is one layer of meninges I have drawn. You can show another layer of meninges. Actually, there are three layers of meninges which are actually protecting our brain from any type of mechanical shock. Understand? These three layers of meninges, understand, which are there to protect our brain from any type of mechanical shock. Sometime what happens, suppose this is our skull, as you all know. Below the skull there is a layers of meninges, and inside that our human brain is there. So if you hit your head, or if somebody strikes you here, suppose of some vital blow, like you dashed with wall or somebody hit you by hockey stick or some anything else, when you get some vital blow on your skull, your brain needs to be protected from any type of mechanical shock. Understand? So that role is played by these three layers. Meninges actually, it is like I just tried to explain. Suppose so you ask your friend, suppose, okay, hit me here, not so vital. When he hits you, it gives you some pain. Then you do one thing, take one pillow or cushion, keep it here, and then ask him try to hit. You are not getting that much pain than the original incidence. Why this happened? Because it provides you one type of cushioning effect. So that cushioning effect to our brain is provided by three layers of meninges, and actually they are filled by, understand, they are filled by, between these meninges there is one type of liquid, understand, to create a cushion like effect, and that liquid is actually known as cerebrospinal fluid. Understand? This cerebrospinal fluid is filled between these meninges, which actually help in providing the cushion effect for the protection of our brain. Okay? So my dear student, try to understand our human brain is made up of such a delicate material, needs to be protected. And for protection there is a skull, a hard bone in our body. At the same time, between skull and brain there are three layers of meninges which are actually in between space is filled by one particular type of liquid which we call cerebrospinal fluid. And this cerebrospinal fluid, which fills the space between the meninges, create a cushion type effect so that our brain is protected from any type of mechanical shock. Understand? Chalo. Now let us move ahead in our diagram. Okay. First, my dear student, when you draw diagram, always this much part first. Okay. What you have to draw? Uh, outline of brain, then skull, then meninges filled by cerebrospinal fluid. Understand? Now what we are trying to draw first is actually the midbrain. Understand? How to draw midbrain, that you need to understand. Suppose from here, try to understand this. From here, okay, somewhat this way, and turn from here, okay, and this way, just a straight perfect line you can draw, okay, and this way. First you have to draw this, okay, then from here, this way, okay. So first you have to try to draw actually midbrain. Understand? After drawing the midbrain, what we are trying to draw is actually just below here. Here lies actually pituitary gland. So before we move, you have to make diagram in this way. Here, take 2 turns here this way, okay, and then this way. Right here, as you know, you have already done this way, a straight line, okay, join from here, here somewhat this way, okay, and then you try to cover it. With this turn, you have to take turn this way, okay, then this way, then just take this way, turn again, okay, and then from here we have to show small brain. How can we show small brain here? So you have drawn tree type structure, that way only you can draw it here, tree type structure. Like suppose this way, make 3 branches of tree look like that way. Small brain. And from here, this way, this way, this is small brain actually. Understood, right? So this much structure first is required by you. Okay, this is what you need to understand. Atlu, this much you have to draw first. How much we have drawn, you understood in the brain? Right? Most of the part of the brain we have shown. Now here in the small brain you have to show some lining this way. This is what is small brain. Okay. This is a small brain actually, right? Actually no shading you require, but this small brain already. And here, this is what you have shown is midbrain actually. Understand here, somewhat if you want to separate, okay, right. Now, what we are showing now, this much part is over, okay, right? And now what we are showing, that's the upper part. See how much part we have already shown here, you understood? You have shown actually midbrain. Here is pituitary gland, okay, small brain, right? This is cerebellum, cranium, skull, and here you are showing actually the cerebral hemisphere from the side. Understand, my dear student? In that case, for drawing the cerebral hemisphere, okay, in that case you be a little sure this way, okay. Just try to understand. That's the most complicated part of the brain. Okay. This way you can draw. Make different turn. It will be useful to show this. Okay. Move this way, or so turn this way. Okay, cut from here, this way. Exaction is not required here, right? No need for the exaction in this. This becomes sufficient this way now. Okay, and here somewhat this way. Okay, and then a little bit curves this way. This way, so some curves diagram gets completed. Okay. Here no exaction too much is required. Okay. So this is how the structure of brain we have drawn, and let me label all parts here. Skull we mention, meninges we mention, cerebrospinal fluid we mention, and this is actually, this one, understood, is called forebrain, or I can say cerebrum. Understand? This is cerebrum. Now let us try to show all parts. This is cerebellum. That is what we call hindbrain. Understand? Now actually here This is pituitary gland. This is pituitary gland. Okay, just above pituitary gland is hypothalamus gland. Hypothalamus gland. Understand, this is actually midbrain. You can write it as midbrain. Right here lies exactly above hypothalamus is thalamus gland. Thalamus, okay. All parts are drawn. Now here, this is actually pons. Somewhat you can show. Then here, medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongata. Understand? And I just extend the posterior extension of medulla oblongata just for understanding. I just extend it here. This can be called spinal cord. Okay? This is spinal cord. Now try to understand. This is what we have drawn, the structure of human brain, and let us try to understand it. Now, we start from here. This is our skull, that's our cranium box. Inside cranium box there are layers of meninges filled with cerebrospinal fluid. Understand, and it help in what? So that cerebrospinal fluid which fills the meninges will try to protect our brain from any mechanical shock or any type of injuries. Then here is forebrain. Actually, our brain is made up of grey and white jelly-like matter. Now, cerebrum actually looks like this from the top view. So, actually, what is the role of cerebrum that we want to understand? So, my dear student, it's not in a part of your textbook, but I must mention it, that cerebrum actually is divided, means our forebrain, this is divided into 4 lobes, and these 4 regions or 4 lobes are known as occipital lobe. Just we mention the name of those lobes so that you can get some idea. Okay. Let us write the name of all lobes here. First, that is occipital lobe. Occipital lobe. Our forebrain is divided into 3 parts. Then second is temporal lobe. Okay, temporal lobe. Then parietal lobe. Parietal lobe and frontal lobe. Actually, our forebrain is divided into 4 regions, that is occipital lobe, temporal lobe, parietal lobe as well as frontal lobe. What is the role of occipital lobe? So it has sensory centers for visual reception. You can see the world by our sense organ, that is eye, and as we studied in chapter 11, the image falls on retina, and retina, the moment image falls on retina, it creates some signal which travel through optical nerves, understand, to our brain, But in brain, it travels to which part of the cerebrum? That is occipital lobe, where these impulses are received. These impulses are processed, interpreted, and accordingly brain try to identify the image. So, center for visual reception are present in occipital lobe. Understand? Temporal lobe, it has center for auditory reception. Auditory reception means you all know very well. Auditory means the centers for hearing are present in temporal lobe. When somebody or when I am speaking and somebody is speaking and you hear and you try to understand the meaning of that word, so that interpretation of the word and a processing of the word is actually done by temporal lobe. So temporal lobe has center for auditory reception. Parietal lobe, no doubt these two lobes, temporal lobe has center for auditory reception. Parietal lobe has centers for, it can be called olfactory lobes because it has center for smell, touch, temperature. You identify any smell, understand that happens because when you smell anything, your nose create the signal which travel to which part of the brain for brain cerebrum, that is parietal lobe, which has center for smell, touch and temperature. You feel like sometime you are speaking, in summer you speak, bahut garmi hai, it's too much heat, too much cold, understand? So that all feeling, no doubt you express with your mouth, but that feeling is actually interpreted by the center present in the parietal lobe, understand? And frontal lobe is everything. Frontal lobe actually has center for whatever activities you do during your daytime. It has centers for memory, it has center for speech, it has centers for practical application, it has centers for management. That means the moment you wake up and you do all activity, no activity you do without thinking, as you all know, understand? The moment you wake up, this part, frontal lobe of the brain becomes active. No doubt all other lobes are active itself, but speech, thought, memory, thinking, application, that is all done by frontal lobe. Actually in cerebrum, frontal lobe and parietal lobe are large in size compared to occipital lobe and temporal lobe. And my dear student, you should understand one thing, that our cerebrum is actually covered by a highly convoluted structure which we call cerebral cortex. Try to understand this. It is covered by, understand, a highly convoluted structure which you can say cerebral cortex. It is such a highly convoluted structure present on the surface of cerebrum that it gives it a large area, because it is highly convoluted structure, look like wrinkles, understand? And my dear student, remember one thing, those person who has more wrinkles, that means large cerebral cortex has got good memory and good intelligence power, understand? So cerebrum is large brain, forebrain, the most important part of your brain, because you just sum up this, your whole life is here. Frontal lobe, speech, thinking, memory, management, practical application, everything. Parietal lobe, smell, touch, temperature. Temporal lobe, auditory reception, occipital lobe, visual reception, everything actually confines, understand, to your cerebrum. Means the moment you wake up and the moment you sleep, till that, all these four lobes are very, very active. And you have seen one thing sometime, if somebody gets some vital injury, understand, in the skull, and blood clot take place, clotting of blood, in any lobe, suppose clotting of blood has taken place in occipital lobe, that means what? Occipital lobe has got center for visual reception. Now that person who is getting the clotting of blood in occipital lobe is able to visualize thing, no doubt, but is not able to identify. We have seen in film sometime that if somebody has got some mechanical injury, understand, in forebrain, then he is not even able to identify his close relative. That happens. Blood clotting take place in these lobes due to mechanical injury, and by surgery or by proper medicine, again the blood flow can be made normal and person can be saved. Understand? So this is about cerebrum. Understand? Now, if just try to think your frontal lobe got some clotting of blood, what happens? You are losing your memory. You are not able to identify any, you lose your memory completely. So this can happen. Understand? So cerebrum, role of the cerebrum is very important. Now, what is actually the, come here, role of the midbrain actually. So midbrain has one role, that is, it transfers sensory information. We have studied every sensory information comes from spinal cord to brain. So any sensory information reaches to cerebrum via midbrain. Understand? So what is the role of midbrain actually? To transfer sensory information to our forebrain, that is cerebrum. Just note down, some point are not mentioned in the textbook. What is the role of the midbrain? To transfer sensory information, understand, to our cerebrum. At the same time, midbrain has any other vital role in our body? Yes, definitely. Midbrain also play a very important role in the reflex action of our eye, head and neck. Eye, head and neck, sometimes somebody wants to hit and you move your head and neck this way. So that reflex action of a winking of eye, somebody tried to hit, you close it. So the reflex action of eye, head and neck is also supported by midbrain. You understood this? Now, come to, you noted down the role of the midbrain, so that's the transfer of sensory information to cerebrum. At the same time, it also controls the reflex action of our head, neck and eye. Here, hypothalamus gland. What is the role of hypothalamus? So actually all information, sensory information passed to the cerebrum, all sensory information passed to the cerebrum via hypothalamus gland. But at the same time, hypothalamus gland also plays some important role in the controlling process of hunger, thirst, blood pressure, etc. Well, hypothalamus play this role also, but my dear student, there is no mention in the textbook in detail, but I must say, see, I have shown pituitary gland here, and this is, suppose we just show for your understanding only, okay? Suppose this is hypothalamus gland, try to understand, and this is pituitary gland. Actually what happens, I already explained you the role of hypothalamus, that is the transfer of sensory information to our forebrain. At the same time, it is indulging in the activity of control on hunger, thirst, blood pressure, even breathing, etc. Now at the same time, hypothalamus has other role also, which is actually not mentioned in your textbook, but my dear student, you should know that we will understand in next lecture, lots of hormones in our body are released by pituitary gland. But pituitary gland is actually under the control of hypothalamus gland. We actually utilize the word, we will also discuss in detail in our next lecture, that pituitary gland is the master gland in our body because it secretes so many important hormones, but actually pituitary gland is controlled by hypothalamus. So you can also mention one point here, that some hormones are released from, we will discuss in next lecture, some hormones are released from hypothalamus gland, which actually control the activities of pituitary gland, function of pituitary gland to secrete particular type of hormones. Okay. Now, what is the now the part of the hindbrain? Hindbrain has three parts: cerebellum, pons, and medulla oblongata. Three parts of the hindbrain. What is the role of pons first? The role of pons is to control the process of respiration. Role of the cerebellum. So actually cerebellum helps to maintain your body posture and balance of your body at the time when you are walking. Understand? A small child when grow and try to walk, he is not able to balance his body. At the same time, when you try to walk and when you try to run, jump, or when you are moving on a string, understand? Even you are dancing, in skit dances, in skitting also we have, skating also we have seen it, understand? Those skaters, right, they need actually to balance their body. So that posture and balance of the body during dancing, walking, running, jumping, everywhere, wherever there is a balance process, that is controlled by your cerebellum. Understand? You have seen person not able to balance their body and moving here and there when they have taken some intake of alcoholic drinks, because that alcoholic drinks is directly going to affect your cerebellum for time being, and time being you lose control on your body. Understand? So role of the cerebellum is very important, that is the posture, and it try to control the posture and balance of your body. Then comes medulla oblongata, the last part of the hindbrain. This medulla oblongata is very important. No doubt it comes here, and our skull is harder here, but this part of the skull is little softer. Here lies the medulla oblongata. Understand what happens? Medulla oblongata is the most important part of hindbrain. If I just mention the function of medulla oblongata, you will understand the importance of it. It controls peristaltic movement of alimentary canal. That means the function of digestive system is under its control, which is not in our control, as you know. It also controls our heartbeat. It also controls our blood pressure. It also controls the activity of sneezing, vomiting, swallowing. So many functions or activity or processes in our body are supported by medulla oblongata. The most important is respiratory rate, heartbeat and blood pressure. So any injury to medulla oblongata, immediately just zigzag your heartbeat and blood pressure, and it may result in sudden death of a person. Understand? In picture we have seen that if somebody wants to kill anybody, then he just handle the head and move this way quickly. So he tried to break his medulla oblongata. Understand? The breaking or any minor injury to medulla oblongata, that's a sudden death of a person. Understand? Then posterior extension of medulla oblongata is our spinal cord, as you know. And spinal cord, so you know, it's not a part of your study, but spinal cord is actually protected, understand, in vertebral column. You must be knowing very well. Just let me show you little. Spinal cord actually is protected, as you all know, understand, in vertebral column. Okay, inside vertebral column, which is a bead-like structure, spinal cord is there. Okay, and from this spinal cord, as you all know, 23, this is suppose spinal cord inside, understand, suppose this is spinal cord, and this is vertebral column, this is spinal cord. You all know that 31 pairs of mixed nerves, understand, arises from spinal cord. Why I utilize the word mixed nerves? Because spinal cord does two type of function. It has to pass sensory information to brain, and it has to not only, suppose here is organ. So any organ passes impulse through nerves to spinal cord passes it to brain, get order from brain, it comes to spinal cord, and the order are back to the organ. So spinal has got 31 pairs of spinal nerves actually, the transfer of information. Understood, my dear students? So structure of brain, understand, has been over. Before we end, let's have a quick look at that. Cranium box, skull. Inside the skull there are 3 layers of meninges, which are actually filled by cerebrospinal fluid, and inside that our brain is there, which is made up of grey and white matter. Grey matter actually forms the surrounding, middle part is of white matter, jelly-like material, understand. Any mechanical shock can be absorbed by these 3 layers of meninges filled by a particular liquid called cerebrospinal fluid. Understand? Then we understood the role of midbrain. What is its role? Transfer of sensory information to cerebrum. At the same time, it also controls the reflex action of eye, head and neck, hypothalamus, also to pass sensory information as well as to control the activity of processes of hunger, thirst, blood pressure, breathing, and then comes the pons, help in the process of respiration. Cerebellum help in the process of body balance and body posture, as you know. Understand? Then we discuss the role of pons, medulla oblongata. I already explained you what. It is very important part in the brain. Understand? Though it lies in the here, just below here and above the spinal cord, but that part is very delicate and it controls so many activity, understand, in our body. I mention all activity that you know: swallowing, coughing, sneezing, vomiting, heart, peristaltic movement of alimentary canal, heartbeat, blood pressure, and even at the same time, secretion of saliva is also supported by it. So any injury to medulla oblongata may result in sure death. Understand? So my dear student, we understood about the most beautiful gift of God, nature to us, that is human brain. And our brain is almost weighing 1350 gram. Understand? That means 1350 gram, right? And our brain, we are controlling the whole world, under other animals, other creature on account of the human brain, because that gives us memory thinking process. And that thinking process only made us a super ape from ape. Understood? So we discussed in detail about the structure of human brain. Okay. So in the next lecture we will discuss about various types of hormones secreted by endocrine glands and exocrine glands in our body. So thank you very much from Bharat sir for today's lecture. Okay, thank you very much.